And welcome to our postseason USC Upstate Coach's Corner. We're with head coach Dave Dickerson today. Well, first of all, Coach, congratulations on being selected to play in the CBI tournament last week there. That I know that's really big, that only 3 teams in the Big South Conference had an opportunity to go on and play postseason, and you're one of them.
Yeah, it was such an honor. The CBI tournament was just such a great organized tournament, and 16 teams. And like you said, being selected to postseason play is always a big thing, especially for our program, especially from 5 years ago when I took the job to now, being in back-to-back postseason tournaments. It's just a big deal for our program, for our students, for our coaches, for our players, and just for recruiting as well.
And probably you are one of the few teams in the conference that's actually been postseason for the last couple of years, last 2 years.
Well, that's a great, that's probably true. and so we're enjoying that. And obviously, getting to postseason play is a big deal to us. And we want to continue to do that. And we want to continue to get better as a program, and hopefully that can propel us to having a great off season and getting ourselves to the point where we can not only go to postseason play, that we can win some games.
Your first round opponent down there was Indiana State, and I know probably your players were not old enough to remember this, but I was. The Sycamores went undefeated that year, played for the national championship, and they had a guy that people didn't know anything about, some guy named Larry Bird playing for them. They didn't have any Larry Birds this year, though, but that was a team rich in tradition right there from the Bird versus Magic championship game.
And I think that championship game was 1979.
79. I was here coaching then.
And it's probably still one of the most watched NCAA games of all time. And so I remember that game, and it was just a big-time game. Larry Bird was unknown until that NCAA tournament, and boy, was he a great player. That was a great game, and he's one of the best players ever played the game of basketball.
I think it'd be safe to say he's known now.
No, he's known now.
Well, a little bit about the tournament itself there. I think in the past years, correct me if I'm wrong, that they actually played at some of the teams' home sites and all, but I think this year they moved the whole tournament to Florida. And just talk a little bit about that and about what your guys thought about getting to go to Florida for a day or so.
Well, it was a big deal. We had to come back early for spring break, so going down to Florida really helped our program. And the weather was good, and the setup was magnificent. We stayed in a Hilton hotel, resort style, and the arena deck was right across the street. I mean, really right across the street. So when we went to practice, you went to games, you just walked. And so it was just, I've never had a situation like that, almost like an AAU situation. And the teams were all in the same hotel. And so you got camaraderie with the teams and the coaches. And so our guys really enjoyed the 2 or 3 days we were down there. And we didn't play the way we wanted to against Indiana State, but the experience was phenomenal.
Let's talk a little bit about your season in general this year. I've thought about it, and again, I had a ball watching you play this year. It's a great brand, and some of my coaching buddies that came with me to the games and all, we were really impressed with the style of play, because there's great coaches in this league. You've got really good players in the league, and I love the way the teams get after it, though. But you had a good year, and when you look back at it, you were probably a call or a break away, and this is realistically, this is not far-fetched, from having your name called on Selection Sunday.
Well, we were very disappointed after the tournament game against Asheville, because that's what we talked about all year. We wanted to give ourselves a chance to get to the NCAA tournament, and earning a spot in the CBI was a great deal for our program, but we wanted to get to the NCAA tournament. And this is a great league. I've coached, I played in the ACC, I've coached in the ACC, the Big Ten, Conference USA. This is a great league. And the great thing about this league is that it's close in proximity, right? And so the rivalries are there. And we had a great year, but I thought the stands and our fans and our supporters had a great year as well, and that propelled us to have a good year. And we play a fun style of basketball, and we were more inside out this year versus 2 years ago. We were more shooting threes and perimeter oriented, and I kind of love the way we played this year, and I think we can add on to that. And the coaching and the players in the Big South is phenomenal, and you see a lot of players leave the Big South, go to these big time programs, and they're not only on the teams, but they're playing well. And so the players are phenomenal. And so I enjoy the Big South. I enjoy the competitiveness, the camaraderie, but I also enjoy coaching in the Hodge as well.
Okay, and throw in another one that enjoyed it this year was your broadcaster was right there too, had a ball doing the game. So
that's I was going to save that to last.
Oh, okay.
But I want to thank you for what you've done, and from the media day in Charlotte, we talked about this 2 years ago, and it didn't happen, but it happened this year, and I had a blast. And you broaden the horizon of the Upstate brand.
Well, I appreciate that. I sure do. I was looking at the other day that I've either been a player or a coach or a broadcaster of basketball for over 55 years.
Are you really?
Yes. That I started playing when I was 9 years old, and I've either played it, coached it, or called it for over 55 years. And by far, I can honestly say March Madness, with the exception of Christmas, is my favorite time of the year. I love it. And it brought back a lot of good feelings that I'd kind of been away from basketball for a while. I was still covering games, but it just brought back that excitement and enthusiasm getting to do your games this year.
Well, so it's safe to say that you've been in basketball.
Yes.
At a high level for all of your life.
All my life. Basketball's been my life.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of funny that Frank McGuire was the guy who got me excited about basketball. I was a NASCAR guy early. When I was a little fella, I used to listen to races. Yeah. But with Frank McGuire, with John Roach and Tom Owens and all that crowd, that's what attracted me to basketball at a young age. And I'm 64 years old, but I've been in basketball for 55 years.
Well, you know, the state of South Carolina don't get enough credit for how good of a state it is for basketball. And you just rolled off those names, and those names are synonymous with why college basketball is so big in the state of South Carolina. And for me, getting the chance to come back to the state of South Carolina, and where I was born and raised in the Low Country of Denmark, Ola High School from Ola, South Carolina. I never thought I would come back to South Carolina and live and to be a head basketball coach at a Division I institution. And so I'm loving being back in the state, and I'm happy to be here with you today.
Well, it's fun. I talked to Bobby Crimmins one time when I first got out of coaching, and he gave me some advice. He said, you know, broadcasting the game, he said, enjoy the game. He said, be honest and be fair. But he said, realize you're still a big part of the game. And that's something that has kind of filled that void and all, to where I don't have my own players, that I have adopted players and adopted families there, though. But it's just great to still get to be a part of the game.
Yes.
All right, let's talk a little bit now, too, about most people have this myth. They think that when you play that final game and you take up the uniforms, that the coaches had the golf course and the beach, and you got all this free time. As a coach, I was busier when the season was over than I was during the season. Just talk a little bit about what all you have to do now before you actually will tip it off here in the Hodge Center again next year.
Oh, my goodness. You know, when I first got married, in our first off season, my wife said, okay, now we can go on vacation. And I said, sweetheart, that's never going to happen no time soon. We got another 2 or 3 months of hard work. And she said, what? I said, during this season, you can block out some things, because the games and winning is the most important thing. But after the season's over with, you got to answer those emails, you got to answer those calls, you got to go recruiting, you got to go to golf tournaments. You got to do a lot of things that you can't do during the season. And those things you got to do during the off season is probably more important than the season, because you got to garner support, you got to garner financial support, physical support for your program, and then you got to recruit. And recruiting, as you know, being in basketball for 55 years, never stops. You may have some dead periods here, you may have some non-recruiting periods here, but recruiting never stops. And so now is the busiest time of my year right now. What I'm going through since last Saturday to now is the most busy time of year, because you got to try to find that next thing or that next player that's going to help you to be the team you want to be next year.
Again, you haven't had a lot of chance to look back, I'm sure, on the season there, but what were some things that you actually thought that your team did well this year, and what are some things you would like to improve on for next year?
Well, I thought our defense was really good, and I know we were not perfect, but I thought our defense from 2 years ago to this past season, was phenomenal. And I thought we did a good job of establishing an inside-out presence, because 2 years ago we were so perimeter oriented. We shot the three a lot, but this year I thought we played basketball the way that I envisioned basketball, playing inside out. And but I thought our defense and our toughness was as good as it's been since I've been here. And now going into next year, we gotta get more playmaking. I thought the thing that we didn't do a good job of this year, we didn't have a lot of games where we had a bunch of assists. And so in other words, we didn't really make each other as good as we possibly could be. And how you do that is you got to be able to pass the basketball. And I thought our passing was not where it needed to be in order to win at a high level. And so all those things we got to improve on. And then the last thing, Dick, like free throw shooting, like our free throw shooting was not good. And so that's got to be an emphasis for us getting back on the floor on April 3rd when we have 2 or 3 weeks of workouts. Free throw shooting has got to be a big emphasis for us.
Okay, and again, that's something that players just don't seem to do. I mean, everybody wants to practice the stuff that they hope will get you on Sports Center highlights.
Yeah.
But I was a guy that I shot almost 90% from the line for my career. That I had one day when I was in junior high school, I had 163 in a row in practice one day. And,
oh my goodness.
And I've had, it was fun that in my PE classes, these little kids would challenge me to a free throw shooting contest in the high school. And I remember one day I hit 58 in a row, and I said, "Have you had enough?" And he said, "Yeah," and I just quit then. So that's been something that's really been important to me, because I wanted the ball at the end of the game.
Yeah.
That I'd go steal it from my teammates because I wanted to get fouled. But sometimes kids don't realize, and you look back at a lot of these games, it's won and lost at that line. That is the only shot you're going to shoot in basketball that you don't have to worry about some guy, big 6'10" Pimbers, trying to cram it down your throat.
Yeah, and you know, and those are all great points. And another good point is that free throw shooting can stop a run by the opposing team. And free throw shooting can add to a run that you're trying to make, because if you can get to the line and then make those uninhibited shots where no one is there, those are big. And so we struggle with that in December and January. We got a little better in February, but we struggle with making free throws.
Well, one thing I noticed towards the end of the year, you guys were taking their time. When they were missing, they were getting up there and rushing, and were not bending their knees. They were stiff there, but they started taking their time and getting relaxed and use their legs, because that's where your touch comes from, your legs lots of times in your shooting and all.
Your legs and your leg drive is
right.
Everything. And
it is.
So next year, now that I know you're a great free throw shooter, you're going to be on the staff next year.
Well, I always enjoyed free throws. I can't run the floor anymore, but I'll challenge anybody to a free throw shooting contest.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk a little bit now too. You're going to be getting on the recruiting trail and all. What are some of the needs that you're looking for in recruiting? What do you feel like that you need to try to bring in for needs for next year?
Well, we signed a young man early from down in the Orlando area, Eddie Placer, Ed Guado, Eddie Placer. He's a 6'4", 6'5". He's a guard that can play on the ball, off the ball. He is a great passer. He has great vision, and he has great anticipation on defense. And he will be a welcome addition to our program. But a lot of people don't know now. Two of our best guards didn't play this year. Jalen Brazil from Dorman tore his Achilles in our close scrimmage on October 16th. And so he was out all year. And at the time, he was our starting point guard. And then we lost one of our kids we recruited out of the transfer portal from James Madison, Drew McConnell, who tore his ACL back in June of last year. And so, and we had high hopes for him as well. And he is a great shooter. He's had great vision, and he can make tough shots and make tough plays. So we didn't have those two guys. So we bring those guys back to our guards. So we think our guards are going to be really good next year. And so we got to add a stretch or a multi-dimension five-man. Because if your five-man can't play inside and out, and then it's almost a detriment. And so we got to add that. We got to get more dynamic in the post. And we have some guys on the hook right now, and hopefully we can get some good news here in the next couple of weeks.
That's great. Had the opportunity, you mentioned transfer portal. I had a chance to talk with Frank Martin a couple of years ago, and he shared with me with how the transfer portal and with NILs have changed the game, that he said he basically felt like that he had to go out and recruit new players, but you had to, now as a college coach, you have to re-recruit your own players. Do you feel like the coaches in the Big South basically have to do that they've got some really good players that play in your conference that probably these big schools would love to try to steal and get away from you?
Yeah, the horse is out of stable on that. The NCAA is not going back on the transfer portal, and the NIL money is one of those things where you either have it or you don't have it. And so, but Frank was definitely right. I just finished up my exit meetings from the season, and so the transfer situation is an epidemic in basketball, and everybody has freedom, and especially a one-time transfer, right? And so it's not going anywhere. And so we have to make sure that we re-recruit our team, and we have to make sure that we recruit the transfer portal. And so, but I'm a little bit old school in the sense that I think we can get really good freshmen like Jordan Gainey last year and Justin Bailey this past year and Jordan Surratt. You can get good freshmen that's going to give you a chance to win in this league. And so we recruit the transfer portal, but we also recruit good freshmen from good programs. Like we got two guys on our team from Doma right now. That's going to make us a really good team.
And that's what I was going to bring up too. You have a lot of success right here within the area. I know you've got several from Dorman. You've got one from Blue Ridge.
Oh, yeah.
You've got them, I think, from Nations Ford and places like that. You've had a lot of success, and that's why one of the reasons why we're doing this today. We want to get the word out that this is a good place to come, and you've been able to attract the local players.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm probably one of the only coaches in the state of South Carolina in college that I'm going to recruit South Carolina kids. I mean, I was a South Carolina kid and had a great career at the University of Maryland, but I'm going to recruit kids from South Carolina, from great programs, to come here and play, and I'm going to give them the audience to do that. And my coaches, Andrew Garcia and Anthony Johnson and Chris Logston and Saul and Ron, those guys do a great job of skill development. Our guys get better, and so and it's proof in the pudding that we've had. Tommy Bruner was second in the freshman voting when he was here, Jordan was freshman of the year last year, and Justin Bailey and Jordan Surratt was first team all freshman. Like, our guys get better here, and so I'm going to continue to recruit the state, and we want guys to come here and represent us.
All right. That leads me to my next question. I'm a 6'9" guard forward, could even play a little center in the post if I needed to. I can run the floor like a deer, and I can shoot threes. I can rain threes all day long.
Oh, wow.
Tell me why I should come play at USC Upstate.
Well, you got to give me 1 minute because I'm going to go and get a letter of intent for you.
I got my pen in my pocket here now.
I'm going to sign you right now.
Okay.
I think that with my background at the University of Maryland and head coach at Tulane and at Ohio State and working 1 year in the NBA, that my background is second to none when it comes to basketball. And so I'm going to help you get what you want. And if you get what you want, I'm going to get what I want, which is a championship level team. So I need you to come play for me because I'm going to be all about you. And I'm going to let you progress and play the game, because when you bring in great players, you got to let great players play. And I'm going to let you play.
And the thing, too, is that people always say, well, gosh, I can't get to the big show. Well, you've had USC Upstate's had a #1 and #2 draft choice of the Bullets. They've had a Harlem Globetrotter, and you've got a guy that's still playing in the big league in the NBA right now that played here. So you can make it to the big league.
Yeah, I was an NBA scout for a year, and I thought that I would be going to the big schools, the Power 5 schools, and watch guys. I was going to every conference to see the best players in that league, because the NBA, 70% of those guys are not from Power Conference and Power Conference schools. So if you can play, they're going to find you. And Torrey Craig is a great example of that. I think they lost a tough one last night. I saw him play, but the brand and the style of basketball he's playing, that started right here on this floor in the Hard Center. So just give us a chance. I'll get you there. Just give us a chance.
All right. All right. Next thing is the last thing that, again, we're going to keep you busy for a long time, but when you do get a chance to get away from the game, recruiting and all the stuff like that, what do you have a happy place, and what do you like to do to just get away from it and relax?
Well, it's been a tough 2 years for me. I lost my wife March 2nd of last year, and this year was just different, without having her, and different from my son. And so he and I right now are finding our happy place. But the thing I love to do, and I don't know if I can say it on here, but I love to go on my patio, and I love to play around a golf. I live on a golf course, and so I love to play around a golf. But the best thing I love to do is sit on my patio on a good evening and have a good glass of red wine and a nice cigar.
There you go.
And so that's my happy place. That's my relaxing place. And if I can do it with people like you, then that makes it all special.
That sounds good. One of my happy places is March Madness. My wife threatens every year to divorce me. She hates March Madness. Yeah. I was just sharing with Ryan that since I've last seen you, I've covered the ACC tournament in Greensboro. I had the NCAA tournament in Greensboro last weekend, along with the women's tournament in Columbia, and I'll be over at Bon Secure Wellness the rest this week doing the women's regionals, the 2 regionals there.
Oh, wow.
So
wow.
This is by far, like I said, my favorite time of the year. This is one of my happy places, is the month of March.
And for me, being able to start, the NCAA has done a good thing to where, back when you and I played, we didn't have any access to the players during the summer. You had to do it on your own. And so my next happy place is going to be when our guys come back in June and we can start working on next year. And because you see the excitement in their face, you see the excitement in the players' face, and I love that. I love having guys here during the summer to where you can work on things that can take you throughout the season.
And that's the thing that people ask me about, do you miss coaching? I don't miss all the backstabbing, politics involved, but I miss most the being with the players and teaching the game.
You know, that's the most underrated deal. And sometimes when you look at the transfer portal, sometimes you don't get a chance to build relationship with guys because they're here 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years, and then they're out, right? And you know, back in the day, the relationship was built over 4 years and sometimes 5. And those relationships last the rest of your life.
They do.
You know, because the guys that I played with, but most importantly, the guys that I coached at Maryland and in Tulane and Ohio State, some of those guys are my best friends right now. And so, but college game has changed so much. So now you got to relish having guys on the floor, which you do in June and July, when the lights are not on, just getting better as a team.
Well, that's the thing with that. Again, I've got players, and I'm thankful for Facebook that I can keep up with. But anybody that's ever played for me is an extended member of my family.
Absolutely.
And they know they can call me. I call them. We work back and forth. That one of my former players is a lawyer who's helping me with an accident and some other stuff there, though. But I had another former player that helped me get a surgeon's second opinion for my wife's knee and stuff, though. But it's just great. Those people, your former players, will always be members of your family.
You know, one of the things I tell guys is that if I know I've done a good job as a coach, you're going to invite me to your wedding, and you're going to send me a picture of your firstborn. And I'm happy to say that I get almost a wedding invitation every year, and I get those pictures coming of their firstborn, and that's why I know I've done a good job.
Well, Coach, enjoyed being with you this year. I'd love to come back next year and do more games than the 10 we did this year. I'd love to do a lot of games for you next year, though. But just excited about where the program's headed. And I know you hear this, a lot of people bringing that, but I can honestly say the best is yet to come.
The best is yet to come, and definitely we got to have you over here for more than 10 games. And we got to continue to collaborate to take this to another level.
Well, if we can ever do anything to help your program, again, for you young players, great opportunity here. This is the Hodge Center is like the South Carolina version of Cameron Indoor Stadium. You know, everybody talks about Cameron, and you know, why don't they ever build one? That'd be crazy too, because you've got that environment, and that's what this facility has got right here for right now. You've got that where you can pack it out and everything like that, though. So
our fans, our students, our followers did an unbelievable job this year. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I look forward to seeing you next year.
Well, that's going to wrap it up for Spartans basketball here for 2022-23. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you. Appreciate you.